What is up, you guys? I am back with another sports video and I'm super excited to bring this one to you. We are going to recap weeks 1 through 3 of the NFL. That way you're able to have an idea of what is going on, ladies, and that way I can keep you up to date and you know what people are talking about. So let's buckle up, get into it. As always, this is actually what I do on TikTok. So if you have already seen the TikTok, you're like, oh, I already know what this is. I give it to you in more detail here because we can have a longer format here on YouTube. We're going to start out with week 1. The NFL opener was the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens. And honestly, I think I already said it on TikTok, this is a messy matchup. The NFL knew what they were doing. This schedule is pretty crazy this year. Week 1 alone was very intense. And this was the first one that I was like, really, NFL? This is who you put matchups together? So if you do not know, the year before, the Chiefs and the Ravens played each other in the AFC Championship game, which meant which one of the teams, whoever won, they got to go on to the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs in Baltimore beat the Chiefs and the Chiefs in Baltimore beat the Ravens, got to go on to the Super Bowl and won. So in the first game of the NFL season, the team who won the Super Bowl opens up the season. Clearly the Chiefs won, so they open the season. And when you're there is a new banner that's revealed that has like Super Bowl champion on it and whatnot. You guys, so you're telling me that you literally decided to have the Ravens have to sit there and watch the team that beat them and mess up their chances of going to the Super Bowl? Watch them get the banner revealed? Crazy work. The game was a good game, okay? And the Ravens ended up losing by a toe. Tight end, his toe was stepped out of bounds. And simply because his toe was out of bounds, they lost by a touchdown. And it was a very close game. It sucks because one thing I've learned, one thing you need to know about sports is a score does not always determine how a game went. Yes, they lost, but like they easily could have won it had his toe been inside. But, I think that's a little unlikely it'll happen again. And the rookie wide receiver that the Chiefs drafted, Xavier, proved that he was truly worthy. That's his last name if you don't know. Of being Patrick Mahomes' go-to. Next up was the Eagles-Packers game. That was a good one because, like I said in the past videos, like with the plastics, everyone's been saying that the Packers are a team that is coming up to prove that they're going to be very dominant in the NFC this year and someone that everyone needs to watch out for. The Eagles struggled last year after going to the Super Bowl the year before. So this was a good matchup. The Eagles do end up winning. This was also a little debut of Saquon Barkley, who is a running back who used to be a running back for the Giants, and that was a whole nother show. Okay, he now is with the Eagles, and it was just like really like you're creating more powerhouses. They already have wide receivers. Jordan Love for the Green Bay Packers ends up getting injured towards the end of the game, and Jalen Carter, who tackled him doing his job, sadly it's his job, who injured him because he tackled him, was receiving a lot of shared on social media all the death threats in the comments, and people were saying to him the names, the hard R's and the N words they were calling him. It was pretty intense. Very like, y'all, he wasn't being malicious. It was a normal football tackle. That's just a part of it that actually sucks. So Jordan Love has been out for a while, but that was a game that took place, and it was the first game that ever took place in South America, and it was in Brazil. Next, the Saints played the Carolina Panthers, and it honestly was... Saints killed them, okay, and it was just not really a sight to be seen. That team has been struggling for a while, the Panthers have, and Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick last year, who was a quarterback that was picked for them. He is very small. I actually have a picture with him because I met him when I worked the draft last year, and I'm only 5 foot. He's not that much taller than me. He's not also a big guy either. So people were wondering how things were going to work out with him and this franchise, and it's just honestly not looking so well. I will foreshadow and tell you in week 2 he did get benched, but more on that later. Next was the Patriots, and this is not the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady Patriots that you're used to hearing growing up. They have been terrible in the past years. They played the Cincinnati Bengals, which if you've watched our plastics video, they are very top in the AFC team to beat, and the Patriots had no business beating the Cincinnati Bengals, but they did. Now, for everyone that is all sports fans and especially Cincinnati fans, Cincinnati always get off to rough starts, always lose their first few games. It's very normal for them. I just feel like it's because it's the Patriots. Everyone's like, really? You couldn't get it done against the Patriots? Like, come on. The next was the Texans and the Colts game. That was a good game to see because Anthony Richardson is a quarterback for the Colts, and then CJ Stroud's a quarterback for the Texans. They both were drafted last year in the same class, and last year was just a very legendary year for black quarterbacks. Like, I know I haven't talked about it on here, but it was an amazing year. You had the first Super Bowl that had 2 black quarterbacks. You had the first NFL draft that all the quarterbacks that went in the first round were all black. And if you know anything about NFL history, quarterback history, you know that the quarterback position has been one that's only been given to opportunities to white players. So to see black athletes, that's why I love black quarterbacks so much. Like, taking over in a space that's very like, you're not allowed to be here, you don't deserve to be here, is a very good sight to see. Also too, last season from the AFC side, we had 2 black quarterbacks going against each other in the AFC championship game too. So it was a very good, intense year. So getting to see these guys go head to head again was nice. I hate they're in the same division. Like, that's crazy, right? But the most interesting thing about this game, the Texans did end up winning. The thing that was interesting to me was Colts got a new I don't even think it was turf. I think it was turf, not grass, some new grass, turf on the field, however you want to call it. And a lot of the players were slipping during the game. So we'll see in time to come if they'll be able to, you know, get that worked out and figure out what's going on, because it can be dangerous for people and injury prone if they're constantly slipping like that, and especially when you have like big men coming at you. Next was Dallas versus the Cleveland Browns. So Dak Prescott had just got paid right before this game. He is now getting paid the most out of in NFL history. We know how everyone feels about the Cowboys, but they were able to go out there and beat the Cleveland Browns. There was a lot going on in Cleveland with their quarterback position that I don't even feel like I'm not even getting into it, but a lot going on. People are saying that had a lot to do with his play. He said it. I don't know. But anyways, that's what happened. Okay. They lost. Next was the Lions and Rams, was a rematch of last year's playoffs. It was a Sunday night game. It was very exciting. I need to do a burn book on those two, but basically those quarterbacks swapped. They don't have beef. Like, that's not what it is, but it was a very big deal. And we want to see if the Rams are going to get payback on the Lions for sending them home last year in the playoffs. And they didn't. Sorry. So the Lions won. The game went to overtime. Okay. First overtime of the season. And for everyone who is a 49ers fan, this overtime is completely different from playoff overtime. Just keep that in mind. These rules do not apply all season long. All right. But it was our first overtime game, like already week 1, Sunday Night Football, and the Lions were able to win it. Then you had Chicago versus the Titans. Okay, so when it comes to this one here, a couple of things. One, Caleb Williams was the number 1 overall pick to Chicago. He is a quarterback, clearly. And he was the first person since I think like 2002, like for a very long time, I forgot, to be able to win in his season opener, like his rookie debut. So basically, though, usually the first game a rookie plays as a quarterback in the NFL, he's gonna lose. But not Caleb Williams. He won. And Mayo, man, he's like obsessed with Mayo. He's the quarterback for the Titans. Ciao. A pick 6 at the very end of the game. It was not good for them. Okay, and the coach was pissed, and he was laying there like, yeah, it wasn't a sight to see. And then Monday Night Football, we had Jets versus the 49ers. This one here was just a very intense one because I already told you guys before everything that has been going on with the Jets in the past, Aaron Rodgers. It's Monday Night Football again. He's playing. Is he going to make it 4 snaps? Can he make it out of the game healthy? He's a 40-year-old man, like everything. And we want to really see kind of how they were going to do coming together. And they also, the NFL, yet again, you put them up against the 49ers, who is a very great team, especially defensively. It's crazy work, you guys. But they did end up losing. But one thing that was crazy was people were impressed with the 49ers win because like they were able to do this even without having Christian McCaffrey, who is the like number 1 running back in the NFL and definitely a it was not good. And he's now with the Steelers, which was nice, but they won the game without having to score any touchdowns. So people were still like, oh, you only scored field goals. Like, we don't even know how good Justin is. Like, a win's a win. Like, just tapes, a win's a win, okay? And the poor Giants got killed and booed. Got killed in their new uniforms. It was a sad day. And then you had to see Saquon Barkley that Friday dominating. It was just not a good sight for them. Not a good sight. Now we're heading into week 2, and week 2 was where things really changed and turned in a like very shocking way. I made a joke in my recap on TikTok. Like, I always made jokes about the Karen Smiths of the NFL, and they proved like, do not speak on us like that again, Kennedy. I'm so sorry. The Saints literally killed the Dallas Cowboys terribly. Now, to be fair, the issue that Dallas has is running the ball. One, they can't run the ball on their end, and they also on defense can't stop the other team from running the ball, which we can get into like details of what that means later, but they have that issue badly, you guys. So Alvin Kamara, just killed them. And it had everyone looking after that week like, are the Saints, did we sleep on the Saints, number one? And are the Saints going to be like a number one? They were like the number one team in the NFL. Like, they were on fire. They were hot. They were the team to be talked about all of week 2 going into week 3 because they literally dominated and on the road. Crazy work. Minnesota beat the 49ers, which that's kind of like a common thing, but I was quite shocked. They don't even have their starting quarterback right now. They have their backup in, and it's like I said, the 49ers, as I told you guys, like in the plastics, is to me like number one team in the NFC. So that was like, for me, it was a little shocking. It was a little shocking. And that pass he had to Justin Jefferson, amazing. It was, I think, like a 99-yard touchdown. Like, it was, he threw it from the end zone and threw it to him, and he ran the rest. It was crazy. Buccaneers got to go in there and go against the Lions. So remember, I had the Buccaneers as Gretchen Wieners, and they took out the Lions. As you see, I had 2 Karen Smiths knocking somebody off. The Bucks, although they are not Karen Smiths, they still are not Regina George status, and they knocked them out. Go ahead, girl. Okay. The Raiders versus the Ravens hurt so deeply. That one hurt me like down in my core. The Ravens got 2 losses already, and Max Crosby just dominated that game. And it sucks because like Lamar didn't have a bad game yet again, but the record is still 0-2. You still lost. And to the Raiders of all people, I don't like the Raiders. And the Raiders are legit Karen Smith. So that didn't look bad. It looked pretty bad. So after the Chargers versus the Panthers game, Bryce Young, the quarterback, he got benched. This is what I was explaining. He was benched, and they had Sam Darnold play. And a lot of people had a lot of mixed feelings about the benching. Basically, Tom Brady had already spoke out about how they are not protecting or doing a good job at preparing these young quarterbacks coming into these rookies. Win of the season. It's week 2, I know, but also their first win with Aaron Rodgers. So that was, people were happy. People were impressed with what they saw and thought like, okay, maybe the Jets are kind of getting it together after all. Okay. And the quarterback Mayo cost the Titans the game again. So there's that. There was the Giants and the Commanders won, but honestly, like I had made the joke before, which I'm kind of going to eat my words later, a little foreshadowing. Like they both were pretty much at the bottom, so like it wasn't really that impressive, but that impressive is rude. Every win's a win. That's not what I mean. I'm sorry if anyone is Washington fans or Washington players. That's not what I'm saying. But I just really wasn't surprised, I guess, by this turnout. So I'm trying to say the Cleveland Browns were able to beat the Jags. I don't know what's going on with the Jags. I don't know. I was expecting more from them, but there's that. Seahawks beat the Patriots. Not a surprise there. The Cardinals killed the Rams. That I was shocked for because, again, like I said, Karen Smith killing I put them as Gretchen Wieners. Sometimes they could be I don't know. Regina George, yeah, they murdered them. Steelers beat the Broncos, and now they are 2-0, and everyone's like, oh, the Steelers are like have a perfect record. Like this, okay, with Justin Fields, okay, and they did actually also score some touchdowns this game compared to the last one. And then on that Thursday night football was Buffalo versus Miami, and Buffalo killed Miami. This had nothing to do with Tua Tagovailoa getting hurt again. Hurt as in this man was concussed and went into his fencing mechanism again, which basically means that the person is unconscious, which is again a very disturbing thing to see. And the last time this happened, it was on Thursday Night Football as well, but it was against Cincinnati. And honestly, it's just like, it's a sight that you don't want to see. It caused a lot of debate and question about if Tua should still be playing and things like that. So we'll see what happens for his future. But he was put on IR, which is injured reserve, and he had to miss at least 4 games. So we'll see when he comes back and what he decides to do. And these 2 games were interesting. The Atlanta versus the Eagles. So Saquon Barkley drops the pass, which potentially could have had them win. They lose at home to the Falcons, and everyone's pretty sleep on the Falcons. Everyone talks trash on Kirk Cousins. As I said, Kirk Cousins can win in the regular season, but still, they just don't give that man his credit. I love Kirk Cousins. Watch Quarterbacks on Netflix. If you haven't, you'll grow to love this man too. Chiefs Bengals. I left this last for a reason. The Chiefs win. Okay, and I know Cincinnati people were sick. The Chiefs win because number 33, I shouldn't say his number, but oh well, on Cincinnati Bengals had a pass interference foul, and because of the pass interference, like they were winning too at the time, Cincinnati was. Pass interference, the reward basically for the penalty, it put the Chiefs in field goal range, and Harrison Butker, who was like, to me, number one, if definitely top two kicker in the NFL, gets the chance to kick a field goal, he does score, wins the game, and that's how Cincinnati lost. So yet again, week 2, the Chiefs are winning, but they're winning by the hair on the chins, skating by, and the Cincinnati Chiefs beef just keeps growing and growing like a dirty, nasty little fungus. That is week 2 of the NFL, y'all. And now we're going to get into week 3 of the NFL. Let's get into it. We have some shockers, the rest, and then some storyline games, okay? Starting out number 1 with some shockers. The Vikings killing the Texans. I'm like, what is going on? That was very hurtful for me. Again, this was a personal hurt for your girl to see. When I'm on TikTok, I always call these like segments, these shows when I do recaps as like, get my kombucha. We're doing this thing called check your gut, because like your gut health is just Carolina Panthers, and everyone was like, oh, maybe Bryce Young was an issue. Okay, I'm not gonna say he's an issue and he should have been benched, but it was only 1 week. I don't know, we'll see. But my point simply is though, okay, crazy work. All right, Monday Night Football, Washington Commanders versus Cincinnati Bengals. If anyone said who do you think is gonna win, you're gonna bet Cincinnati, and that is not the case at all. The Cincinnati Bengals lost. They are now 3-0. Do you know how hard it's going to be for them now to come back, to make it to the playoffs, to win their division? Like, their whole division, luckily, is, besides the Steelers, is struggling for the most part. So it's cool. You know, it's not the big deal. But, all right, we don't like that. We don't like that at all. We don't like it, friends. It's not looking too pretty. All right, it's not looking too pretty. But we love that for Jayden Daniels. Congrats, my guy. And then it was the Rams versus the 49ers. Again, 49ers is another one. Like, I think they'll get it together. Don't get me wrong. I genuinely think they'll get it together. But it's just not looking too hot after their win against the Jets. It's giving you beat up on a team that was like their first time working together, and congratulations. Yeah, I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I don't want the 49er faithful, whatever their name is, coming after me, child. Okay, I've seen them fight their own fans. Girl, don't come after me. So here are like the rest of the lineup before we get to the storyline. So the rest of the lineup was Steelers versus the Chargers. Like I said, they are now 3-0 Steelers. What? And everyone's like, okay, well, look, they said they're holding the fort down for themselves over here in this AFC North. And then you have Green Bay versus the Titans. Green Bay won. The Colts were able to beat the Bears, which I'm glad. I don't want to speak too much on Caleb Williams, but I just would say his attitude is just something I don't like. I'm sorry, I don't. So I'm glad Anthony Richardson and them were able to beat him. You had the Lions beating Arizona. Not surprised there. The Jets beat the Patriots, which was a big deal because there was a streak for years where the Patriots constantly beat the Jets. So we were glad to see that happened. It was Thursday Night Football too, so sight to see. And then you have the Dolphins versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks killed the Dolphins. Miami, they only had 3 points. And basically at this point, everyone's like, even if Tua decides to come back, who knows what position they're going to be in. He might as well just sit out the rest of the time of the season and just enjoy mini retirement or something. I don't know. Now here going into the storylines of week 3 that were some big takeaways. Okay. So remember last week, I told you guys how last week the Saints killed the Dallas Cowboys, and everyone was like, oh my goodness. Okay. The Saints are the number 1. They're the team to beat. That's who everyone thinks. Like now everyone's like, oh, they're a little scary. The Eagles have struggled defensively last year. So if you thought about it, they were like, oh, they're going to have trouble with the Saints. Well, they didn't. They ended up winning. It was a very close game the entire game. The Eagles were able to beat the Saints. So they kind of proven also in themselves, like, stop counting us out. The Saints were not able to do all the things they were able to do to the Dallas Cowboys. So Dallas versus the Eagles is not looking like a pretty sight. I just want to say that. They played them twice this year. Good luck, Charlie. Okay. Baltimore Ravens versus the Dallas Cowboys was my favorite matchup of week 3, and I needed Lamar to get this win. He could not go out 3-0. The AFC is a lot harder than the NFC, so honestly, him losing would be very detrimental to this team moving on and being able to go to the playoffs this year. But for the NFC, I mean, it's not as hard. And, you know, the Cowboys could have bounced back. That way, they were like, everybody needs to be fired because that's the easiest way to win. And they did win. Now, it was close because in the end, they were killed in the beginning. But, like, I want to say, like, it was like 21 at half. But the issue with the Baltimore Ravens is they have been blowing their leads they have in the fourth quarter. It looked like they almost were going to do that this game. Luckily, they didn't. Luckily, Lamar got the win, and I'm just so happy, and I love that. And I'm sorry for Dallas. I'm so sorry. Bills versus the Jaguars. Oh, my goodness. Buffalo Bills killed the Jags, but that's not even the tea. It's the fact that Josh Allen is chirping at the mouth, trying to throw shots and shade at Stephon Diggs. He made a comment and was like, oh, yeah, you know, when you have players who aren't worried about their stats or whatever, you know, things like basically work together better, because Stephon Diggs was like upset about, like, you know, the amount of time he was getting the ball on his stats, and he's not with them anymore. He's with the Texans. So I'm just like, honestly, like, bro, shut up. Like, whatever. I don't like Josh Allen. I will say that right now. If there's a list of like quarterbacks, there's 3 in the NFL I don't like, and he should be number 1, but the other ones did heinous things in their lifetime, so he's number 3. But I don't like him. I really don't like him. There's that. Okay. Then it was the Chiefs versus the Falcons. So remember I told you guys in week 2 and 3 that the Chiefs have made it by a hair on their chin. Same thing happened in week 3. Now, maybe the hair on the chin as in week 1, it wasn't even a penalty thing. Just week 1 against Baltimore Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens tight end, likely his toe was out of bounds, so the touchdown didn't count. Clock struck 0. Chiefs win. Week 2, you have them versus Cincinnati Bengals, and it was the foul that was called that got them in field goal range, so they were able to win. This week, the Falcons could have had a touchdown, field goal, anything if this foul was called for pass interference in the end zone. It was the most obvious, okay, pass interference there is, and it was not called. And it's giving, I've never been one to be like, oh, the NFL scripted, stuff scripted. That's not my take. I don't believe those kinds of things, but that's what it's giving at this exact moment. Like, it's kind of bad. So everyone's upset about it because the Falcons could have won, and the fact that you almost lost to the Falcons, everyone talks about the Falcons and talks about Kirk Cousins. The Chiefs, although they're winning in true Chiefs fashion, is what makes everyone hate them so much. They just always find a way to win at the very end, but they're not dominating. They're not like a force to be reckoned with. We're going to see how this team continues to keep pushing and meshing things together, but that's pretty much everything that is going on I hope this helped you guys. I will see you in the next week recap, and this time I'll have my kombucha like I do on TikTok, so we get to it. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to follow me and subscribe so I can keep you up to date on all things sports all seasons long. Be sure to follow the TikTok so that way you get the instant updates right away. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.